Hello.
Hello, friends. We're back.
We're
You
back.
guys thought you got rid of me. Nope. Not so lucky. I'm back in town and running my mouth.
Accurate.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least when I'm running my mouth, I try to make sure that it's about something valuable.
Yeah.
So today, one of the things that I was out of town for was I was actually leading a workshop around branding and understanding your brand personality and how that impacts your business. So I thought it would be fun to come back and share some of those nuggets with all of you. So I think a lot of people run into this situation when they feel like their brand is off, but it looks good, you
Yeah.
know? Like I definitely, we've had clients like that. I
Mhm.
know that we've had that problem in our own business back
Yeah.
in the day before we really understood all the moving parts. And so it's something that I think is super common and something we can dive a little bit deeper into today. Because really your brand, it shouldn't look good but have no one biting.
Right.
You don't want it to be feeling stale, and it's frustrating when that's happening. Like, that's the feedback that we're hearing from people. My website looks good, I'm constantly posting on social media, I'm doing all this work to
Mhm.
try and connect with my audience, but why aren't people connecting? And that usually boils down to one thing, and that really is your brand personality. And how can you communicate that? How can you build that connection with the audience that you have? And one thing that I like to say is that pretty does not equal powerful.
Correct. And that's one thing that you see a lot of these days because it's so easy now with templates and you can get on these
Mhm.
website builders that do all these things and they can give you a website that looks polished and pretty and professional and it looks nice. And we have seen so many of those in our business. People come to us
Yeah,
and like, oh, look, my website looks so professional. And in the back of our minds, we're going, yeah, but it looks like everybody else. We can tell when it's a template. If I let a secret out of the bag, there it is. We can tell when it's a template, but
right. Even when it's a super sexy template, which there's a lot of them out there, but
yeah, there are, but we can usually tell. But the thing about that is that people get those templates and they plug their content into it and they think this is it. I got it. I got it. It
yeah.
looks good. Look, I have this professional website. And then they're like, well, why aren't people connecting? Why aren't people clicking on my opt-in? Why isn't this happening? And
Yeah, I mean, and I think those are the symptoms to be looking out for, right? So if you're trying to assess for yourself, is this my problem? Is this what I'm running into? If you've done the reviews and visually everything looks like it's lined up and it's photos of you that are current, not from 20 years ago, and it's information that seems current to you. One of the things to go through and think about is, okay, if I'm having quality visuals but no engagement, then that means it's really the message. And the
Mhm.
message is all tied to your brand personality, understanding how you want to show up in the world. And I think that's the most important part of it is we get to choose. I think we're a lot of times we're sitting around and we're waiting for other people to tell us
Yeah.
how we're showing up. But no, dang it, you get to choose. This is 2025. I get to choose what I want to put out there. And honestly, what happens is that it means that the messiness of your messaging gets cleaned up. It means that you start to have emotional connection. And if that's not happening, then what's missing is that brand personality, that
Right.
clarity on yourself. And I think it's important to kind of think about the difference between brand emotion versus brand strategy. We're left right labs, right?
Mhm.
So that's the left brain and the right brain coming together. And it's really easy to go very far in one direction or the other. I mean, I'm the right brain. So I lead with emotion, I lead with heart. But if I'm just running around doing that and I'm not actually I'm not letting Gretchen bring strategy to the table, well, then I'm creating a hot mess for our company and our clients. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, I mean, for you, Gretchen, if you're leading with pure strategy, but not thinking of bringing heart into it, then things can start to feel a little robotic. So it's like,
Yes.
how do we have the balance of the two? And I know you pride yourself on being a cyborg, Gretchen, but
Be close.
and that's fine for you, but it's not okay for your brand. You know,
Well,
and so,
it doesn't connect with everybody. And that's the
right.
thing. People do need to hear what the left brain has to say in any business, the left brain side of the business. But if it's all left brain, unless your audience is all left brain, there are situations where that makes sense, but that's not going to always be the case. I would say, and I'm going to throw a random number out here, but you know, like 80 to 90% of businesses are both have right and left brain involved in them. If you think you're an outlier, that's great, but most people aren't.
Yeah, it's really true. Well, and then that means that you're missing out on people you could be serving because you're not willing to think about that beautiful alchemy of bringing the two together. Right. It's that emotion and that strategy that really makes things sing. Yeah. And you know, so you should be asking yourself, like, what do you feel when you're looking at your brand, when you're reading your own content? Do you have enough of a balance of that emotion and that strategy?
Well, and if you think about it too, even though I'm a left brain and you're a right brain, that's not solely what we are all the time.
Yeah, that's a major oversimplification.
If you take me to the Lego set right now, I'm going to make emotional purchases. Some gut reaction. I want that set. So it's not, my logic brain is going, you don't need that set. But, you know, the right brain is going, buy it. So we all have that mix of right brain, left brain concept. So, you know, that if your brand isn't conveying both of that, you're not going to be meeting the needs of your customer.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up because there is a Harvard study that states that 95% of purchases are made in the subconscious mind.
Oh, yeah.
That's that emotional mind. That's emotional connection. So we want the support of the logic. The logic is so good for building trust, right? It's so good for letting people know what specific things are they getting, or is there a process that you follow so they know there's proof that this isn't your first time of doing something. Like logic provides that structure. And if we boil that down psychologically, that structure provides safety. So that's an important piece. That's a really important piece to have. So you have to have that logic. But on the other side, if we have no heart, that's the part that really, like when we think of any great storytellers, we might have got sucked in because the topic was something we thought we might be interested in. But then when we really went with them and we take all these twists and turns and we go up the highs and lows, that's what helps us, like we're connecting just human to human, like you and I right now. And so that's what the power of kind of the heart really does, that brand emotion side of it.
Yeah. And I was going to say, this is, you know what I'm going to say? This is how it starts with AI. AI, if you go to a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Jasper or whatever, and you just use it plain vanilla out of the box without training it, without telling it anything about your brand or anything like that, you're just going to get boring, plain vanilla results back. It doesn't have a heart. You have to give that AI a heart, and Trina's going to tell you how to do that.
Yes. well, that's the perfect setup, because enter the archetype. Right? Okay, so what on earth is an archetype? What does this mean? It is a fancy word for your brand personality. So if you've heard someone talk about a brand archetype, you could think of it as your brand personality, or in some cases, brand characters. So this is, honestly, it's a core psychological structure. This is based off, like, if we think of any good movie or good book, there are characters in the book and the movie, right? And that character is something we can identify with. Maybe there is, an action movie and you're really engaged with the hero, the one that's coming in to save the day and to lead the charge, or maybe you're watching a movie where there's an outlaw and they're coming in and they're disruptors, or we're watching Star Wars and we're looking for wisdom, and guess what? We immediately go to Yoda, right? Mm-hmm. There's these things that we think, okay, these are just characters. This is all based on psychology at the end of the day. And Carl Jung, for any of you who are nerds like me, psychology nerds like me, Carl Jung is really the one who founded this idea around archetypes, and it applies to your brand. It applies to your personality and the way that you put yourself out there. And so I think one of the ways that is important to do that is understanding, how do I use brand personality? How do I leverage that for myself? If we think about how many other companies there are that are in the same field as you, like all the different people that your potential clients or followers could connect with, how do we make you different from them? How do you make you different from them? And understanding what your brand archetype is, your brand personality, is that way to really lead the charge. When we think of the mega brands out there, if we're thinking of Disney, we're thinking of Starbucks, we're thinking of Apple, those are brands that understand the power of an archetype and lean all the way in. So if we take something like Disney, there's a lot of archetypes out there. We tend to focus on the core 12. So when you hear me referencing names of them, I'm referencing the core 12. But when we think of somebody like Disney, their archetype is the magician. It's transformation. It's about creating incredible experiences. It's about taking something that feels like it shouldn't be able to exist, but it does. So that makes sense for Disney. Like right away we get that. But what if you're an engineering company and you're competing against all these other engineers who are really stiff and it's all about blueprints and da da da. But what if you are able to infuse your brand with that voice of the magician and say, guess what? We use our engineering brilliance to bring you things that you wouldn't have had on the other side of that. We can actually create new products for you. We can actually uncover new ideas or solve problems that bring a transformation. Now that's a unique way to start talking about something like engineering that people are going to make all kinds of assumptions about. So it's really about opening up a language that people can connect to, both scientifically and emotionally. Boom, it's that magic in the middle, right? and so that's one of those things that's so fun to dig into. There's the idea of the sage, who is like what I was just talking about a moment ago with Yoda. If you're thinking about, oh, we're a brand that we really want to be known for wisdom, and guess what? Our audience also values wisdom. Well, if we can find what that archetype is that is common to you and your audience, now we have a language that we can start communicating through. And we have that common ground that people can understand. I'm curious, Gretchen, for you from the outside. I mean, my background was in psychology, so this was stuff I nerded out on all the time. And you love psychology in different ways, but I'm curious, when you first started learning about brand archetypes, what were things that maybe seemed weird to you or you didn't understand?
Well, my first thought is really just 12.
There's a lot more, but there's 12 core ones.
Right. But you know what? Here's why I kind of got stuck on that, is because I'm like, well, that's kind of putting everybody in a box, right?
Yeah.
But when you dig deeper into that, brands have a secondary archetype. And sometimes they can have a third, but that's very rare. It's usually there's just two that we focus on. And when you do that, that opens up a high number of possibilities. And then of course there's percentages that you're like a certain percentage of your primary and only a smaller percentage of your secondary. And so that's where that kind of that secret sauce comes in for the business. Is when you know what both of those are and you play to those strengths.
Yeah. Well, and when we're helping our clients uncover their brand archetypes and their brand personality, we are looking for the two. So the first one is the one that you have in common with your audience, because that means you're on ground where you have common conversation and common interests. So that's number one, right? But the second one, like Gretchen was mentioning, that is the secret sauce. That's that extra little spice that you bring to the table that is totally unique to you. And so it's so fun because there's so many ways to do that. And when you start to kind of put those together, so if we take the idea of, let's say, the main thing you have in common with your audience is the sage. So they're all, you are driven by learning, your audience is driven by learning. That is something that in our field makes a lot of sense. So we have that part in common. We're driven by that. We're interested in that. We could nerd out about that for hours. Okay, so we've got that in common. But then let's say we want to add in some of our own little spice. There's a couple different ways we could approach it. We could bring in the caregiver side of us, which is like, hey, we really want to make sure that you feel supported all the way through your rebranding process, right? So if we go that route, you're going to get one kind of feeling about who this branding agency might be. Or maybe you've seen agencies that they're all about disruption and doing something new and making a big splash, and they're coming from a totally different angle. But you start to see, playing around with these ideas, oh, I can have a different conversation with guardrails. Because the real risk of not having a brand archetype or a brand personality is you're just throwing spaghetti on the wall. And every other day you're someone new and you're tapping into something new and you're trying something new. It's freaking exhausting. I don't want to hang out with people. Like, we have all had what we call those like energy vampires, right? We've all known an energy vampire. Someone that being around them just sucks the energy out of you because they're just all over the place. If that is what you're doing with your brand, because you're just trying something, I'm really sorry to say, but you're driving people away. You absolutely are. For sure. Yeah. So that's a way that, like, once you can dial those in, you start to have this really exciting mixture of common ground with your own secret sauce that makes them lean in closer, makes them want to learn more from you. So, we've done something for you guys. If you're trying to figure out what's my brand archetype, my brand personality, we have put together this awesome quiz at leftrightlabs.com/personality. And that will help you figure out which quadrant you fall into with brand archetypes. So it'll help you start to figure out, okay, where's the one that I might be leading in? And it's going to help you start to think a little bit differently about how you could approach language for your brand. Gretchen, did you have anything else around the personality quiz that you wanted to mention?
No.
I think it really will just help you to just start figuring out how to infuse your own personality in there. And it's
the first step.
It really is.
Yeah, I guess I think what you were kind of leading me to answer on that was when it comes to because I'm going to talk about AI nonstop because that's where business is headed right now. And if you're not even just dipping your toes into the AI right now, you're going to be left behind. And that's truly, that's not even just in my opinion. That's just how it is right now. And if you don't know who your brand is, you don't know what your brand personality is, and you don't have that dialed in with the AI tools that you use, you are not going to get good results. You are not going to get results that connect with your customers. You're not going to get results that lead your business in the right direction. That's huge. And so you really need to be able to dial that in. And that is something that we have done in our own business. And that's something that we're working on with some of our clients right now, is just helping them put together tools that they can then feed to the AI, and then their AI tools now can give back, purely branded results. They know how their tone's supposed to be. They know the messaging, the phrases, they know the products the clients need. It's just completely dialed in. But if you've not done that with your AI, and I also would challenge this too, because I know there's people out there. I've had these conversations with a few people, just in message boards and places like that. And these aren't coming from clients, but on message boards. And they've said things like, well, I just ask AI to help me figure out my brand. And I'm like, but when you do that, AI is just mirroring back what you put into it.
Yes.
You don't know what your brand is because you've not done sat down and done actual brand strategy with humans. But if you haven't done that, then AI is just taking and spitting back generic results for you based on what you're putting into it. So it's mirroring things back to you that might not be correct. And I'll give one more example. When we first started down this path and we started putting things into AI about our brand and trying to get the right message. And it was a process because in the very beginning, a lot of these tools and it hadn't really evolved quite far enough. But anyway, when we first did that, at one point I just asked AI, I said, hey, can you just tell me what you know about our brand? Tell me everything you know about Left Right Lab, summarize it and send it back to me. And it did. And it was wrong in several.
Real wrong.
I was like, tell me everything you know about the brand. And it came back and it had our archetype wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh, and so we course corrected that and figured it out. But there's a lot of people out there that aren't doing that. They're just plugging along thinking that, oh, well, AI is going to figure it out for me. It's not. It has to, you have to give it the brand strategy from the human perspective and the stories from the human perspective. It can be an amazing tool and an amazing assistant for your business.
Absolutely.
But you have to start with the brand strategy and you have to get that in first.
Well, and also think about the fact that if you were solely relying on AI, that is still you seeking outside validation. That is still you saying, somebody else tell me who I am.
Yeah.
When you step back and really think about that, that's painful, right?
And
it's like, no, you get to decide.
Yeah. If you're going in with just plain vanilla AI, with not giving it any information, and you're just saying, hey, ask me questions and figure out my brand personality, it's going to be all over the place. And then when you ask it to summarize and spit it back to you, it's going to be absolutely disastrous. And that was our experience with it until we figured out how to course correct it. And that's what, we're doing that now with clients, and we're figuring out exactly what it needs to know, get the right prompts in there, get the right information to it, and in the right order too. That's also a key piece of it. And then once it's in there, the results you get back are pretty, you don't have to do a lot of editing and have back and forth conversations with the AI to get it right and tweak it just right. You get stuff that's pretty much ready to go. It just takes a few little tweaks on your end to finalize it, and it's ready to go. And that's a huge, huge time saver.
Yeah. Well, and if you go through and if you take this personality quiz, this will give you kind of that first pass to understand what quadrant of the brand archetypes you fall in. And then you'll also get an opportunity to sign up for an upcoming workshop that we're going to be having, where we're diving deeper into what the system is, how this works for you, and how you can use this to leverage this personality and this conversation and this unifying foundation that it creates for you and your ideal clients. So if you're interested in that, sign up for the quiz, leftrightlabs.com/personality. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We're so excited. I'm excited to be back and to get to connect with everybody. And we'll see you again next Friday. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.